And welcome, Sunil. Welcome, Farooq. We are live.
I guess that's what happens, when we have the usual Sunedo, hosting and what is not. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all cool. Anyways,
definitely.
let's welcome back our fans and fellow Madridisters, listeners and watchers. Uh, it's great to be back here, after the group stages of the World Cup, and now we're into, the business round of it. So welcome to everyone. It's been a while, and I honestly miss watching Real Madrid. Honestly, I mean, just watching league football in general. But I don't know how has it been for you, Jacob?
Well, the good news is we still have a lot of Madridistas still alive in the World Cup, even though we've lost maybe Valverde and Hazard, especially the Valverde one stinks. Uh, but it's good to see those players, having. And so I don't miss Real Madrid games as much, but I still do miss it.
I see. I see. It's interesting, that you chose to mention Hazard over Thibaut Courtois, Messi, but then I will take that. That was a funny group, honestly. Yeah. Anyways, so we come to the end of the group stages, and we're gonna go through the now into the round of 16s and what is and what is not. Before we move on, like what was the best moment of the World Cup for you so far? Before we actually go into the business and discuss what is and what is not, is there something that has stood out for you at the World Cup so far?
Well, yeah, there have been so many crazy games. Like I can't just pick one. It's all like all of the Asian teams have been doing really well. Morocco, Japan, South Korea. But for me, like the funniest part for me in the World Cup would be Kamavinga starting as a left back and doing pretty well. That was like a good moment for me as a Madridista to see.
I see. I think France lost that game though. No,
Yeah, they lost to Tunisia 1-0.
was it to Croatia though, or to Tunisia, right?
Tunisia.
Yeah, just to Tunisia. Okay. Uh, that's interesting. That's that there is that as well. And actually, for me, the funny thing was honestly the Uruguay and the Ghanaian thing. Like it was a very very weird scene. Like both the Ghanaians and the Uruguay crashed out, but the Ghanaians were celebrating like they actually went through and stuff like that. I guess maybe it's because of the whole Luis Suarez thing and him refusing to on up to his responsibility, which I think makes sense actually in the sense that he said he didn't miss the penalty, which Kian missed in 2010. He was right, although he committed the foul and he paid the penalty, and the opposing team had the chance to score the goal, but they chose not to. But anyways, that's something we can discuss while
Yeah, but did you actually feel sorry for Suarez at that moment? Like when you saw the images of him crying on the bench?
no, I mean it wasn't anything to feel sorry about, but it was just weird, like how Ghanaians, like literally paint Uruguay as a pantomime villain, like that, like this is the ultimate, like the last stage, evil guy and stuff like that. So yeah, it was quite interesting though. It was quite
Mm.
interesting, honestly. So yeah, without further ado, let's just start and we can discuss how the groups went and what we felt with the groups and what are the chances for the teams that moved on from the group. So we start from Group A. We had Netherlands, Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar in that order, which means Netherlands and Senegal went through. I think this is something that most people expected, but I mean, one thing I would say is that like I was really surprised by how good Ecuador were and how good Valencia was actually, to be honest. And even more surprising was really how bad Qatar were because like they were like the 2019 AFC Asian champions. So and these are players that have been training for the last actually I would say 5 years just for this tournament, and to come here with 0 point and just one goal scored, it's really really shameful. And I would just like to add about the fact that Senegal and without Sadio Mane and after losing the first game to the Dutch, how they bounced back to actually win the two games like resoundingly. And like in the game against Ecuador, it was really, really, it was a game of how would I say? It was a game of I think coming to age because it was a really, really good performance, from them. So it was something that impressed me a lot. But then with the Dutch and Louis van Gaal, I actually would say it's typical Louis van Gaal team. There's no excitement. There's just there is application, but like there is nothing to get you out of your seat. And there is application and execution, yeah, but there's nothing to get you out of your seat. It's just how would I say? It's just a robotic performance, I would say, or I don't know, like a slow and steady performance. I don't know. What's your take on the Group A? How has it been for you?
Well, yeah, like Group A has, like you said, has stick to the story. We expected Netherlands and Senegal to, perform really good, and that's what we got. Which is why maybe this is one of the like groups that went under the radar. But for me, at least watching Netherlands and watching Cody Gakpo like explode onto the scene, that has been a good moment so far in this World Cup for the youngster. I mean, most of their play, if you look at it, it's all standard playbooks. They like to cut back the ball from their fullbacks, and so it's like, yeah, it is standard fare. But let's see how they perform. Like in the later stages of the tournament.
All right.
This is a team like we shouldn't really be sleeping on, but yeah, let's see.
That's yeah, you're totally right. I think about the fact about not sleeping on the Dutch because if there's anything we've seen, like Louis van Gaal at the 2014 World Cup as well, the way he made his team, like they weren't too exciting, but as I said, like there's the application and the execution right there. So because of that, like it's really really interesting, honestly. Yeah, that's the word I would use. But yeah, I mean Netherlands, Senegal. So Netherlands were to face the USA in the round of 16, and Senegal for England actually. Yeah, so maybe we can just check on Group B and see
Yeah,
how it panned out for them. I guess like would be also like stirred up a bit of an interesting, how would I say, like yeah, in a couple of interesting matchups. So I'll just say, Jacob, just take it away. Let's start with you from Group B, and then I can give my comments afterwards.
of course. Well, I've got to say, like being a Gareth Bale fan, watching Wales crash and burn was not fun at all. But it had, like I said, it had some really interesting matchups, especially the matchups against USA, Iran, and the soccer versus football thing with England and USA. That was all fun, and there was a lot of memes floating around for this group specifically, which I really enjoyed. As for the matches itself, I would say Iran did perform like better than we expected, like especially against Wales. They had some good showings, but in the end, the quality of US and England was too much for the other two teams to handle.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And it was so, it was such a lethargic performance from Wales and Gareth. Let's I don't know Gareth Bale as well. I don't know if to include him in there, but really, really was on such an underwhelming performance because like they really were just there to pack the bus and no application, nothing. So they were just hoping for a moment of magic from Gareth Bale, which was what he got in the USA game with the penalty he won and he converted duly as well. But since then, like it was just that even against Iran, like they were just there sitting back and Iran had 2 goals, even against England. Like, I mean, I didn't even, after seeing the first 2 games, I actually had no hope for them against England. Rightfully so, like you could see how like literally England like just got through them like hot knife through butter, something like that. So it was actually kind of a very very down performance from Wales and Gareth Bale. I actually expected a lot more from them. I was thinking they could overpower both Iran and the United States to get into the round of 16. Actually, well, unfortunately, I was totally wrong about that. But you're totally right. The performance from Iran was something that actually I wasn't expecting because with Carlos Queiroz, the kind of coach he is, like he's a very very negative coach and what is and what is not. But I think also maybe that also played into the hands of the USA perfectly as well. Like because you could see in the first half in the game of Iran USA, like the USA really dominated the game really well, and like they put themselves in a good position with the goal which Pulisic scored. Although he scored and he put future generations on the line. If we were to quote the famous, yeah. So he took one for the team literally, like literally and figuratively as well. So but in the second half, you could see like it was all Iran. But I mean, it's logical because the USA team is just trying to hold down what they have. So in the second half, it was just all Iran, 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 and unfortunately, they couldn't find a way through, which is also credit to the United States and the because it's a very young United States team to be honest. So it's just credit to them and the defensive nous, the maturity as well. And also maybe this also helps because like right now a lot of these United States players are playing at top level European football as well. The captains and the captain Tyler Adam, McKennie, Musa, then just to name a few. Like these are players who are playing at top level European football. So maybe that's that also gives that adds to that. Although you're young in age, but like experience wise, you're not like I mean you're not a newbie experience wise. So maybe that might be something also that uh, helps them to be able to hold their fort for the game. So yeah, well, yeah, it was there were some really good matchups. I think the USA game against England was good. At
Mm.
least it was good to watch. It was a nice one. But yeah, other than that, like I mean, England did what was expected of them, so there was nothing new there. And I would say
Um,
that's the thing I think of that group of Group B. There's nothing more to add. I don't know if you have anything to add about Group B.
I mean, did you notice that like any of the England players having any stellar performances? Like it was like a pretty easy group for them, and so I feel like the players weren't tested that much to showcase their quality. But yeah, but the question is it coming home this year?
I think I just want to shout out honestly, like for someone like to someone like Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford, because like these are two players that have been questioned why they're on the team. I think Harry Maguire actually showed the world why Gareth Southgate has so much faith in him. He put really, really impressive performances. The game against the United States was really good, because the United States kept bombarding them, and I just felt like everything was going through, like he was stopping everything from going through. Uh, Even yeah, I think he's been really good throughout the games. So shout out to that honestly, because the man has gotten a lot of hate over the past couple of months and years, maybe rightfully or wrongly. That's something that's left for debate. But he's really put in a lot of good performances, and as well as Marcus Rashford. Like you can see, Marcus Rashford, he's back and back to his very best. The free kick he scored against Wales was a very very lovely one. And he also has 3 goals now in the tournament, so he's also up there with the top goal scorers of the tournament as well. So yeah, it's really good to see those guys. And about the question about this coming home or not coming home, I think it just depends on how they fare, because their bracket is actually looking a bit complicated. So I mean, we will get there and then we can discuss that. But if you ask me personally, is it coming home? I don't think so.
That's always a safe bet to take.
Yeah, it is. Anyways, let's go to Group C. That's the team that contains Argentina, Poland, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia. That was the game, the first group that cooked us the first upset of the game. I think maybe that might even be the upset of the year, or maybe even the upset of the century. I don't know if there is something like that. This is a Saudi Arabian team that contains teams that play only in the Saudi Arabian league against the almighty Lionel Messi and Argentina, so the game was a really really good one. And actually, I didn't watch that first game, so it was actually kind of a bit you might think it's just, how can I say, like it's just a team of Saudi Arabian team who is just full of, I don't know, big players and giants, who are just gonna hustle and puffle and do and that. Although it's that, well, like these guys are actually technically good, actually. When you go back and watch the goals, you see like these were very technical goals, and even from that, when you watch the game of Saudi against Poland, it was a really, really good game, actually. Even Saudi Arabia missed a penalty in the first half of the game, even before, I think it was Milik that scored the first goal. Even before they scored the first goal, I'm not sure who scored it, but I can't remember the name. Now I remember it's not Milik. Well, they scored the first goal, Poland, and a mistake, late in the second half led to Lewandowski scoring his first World Cup goal as well. So that was a really bad thing. But I feel like, with a bit more good finish, or rather a better striker, I think Saudi Arabia gets out of this team, uh, given the match against Poland, what happened in that game, honestly. So I really, really, I was really surprised by how good Saudi Arabia were. Honestly, they are a really, really solid team. And Argentina, after the first shock, they came back to life. The game against Poland, the game against Mexico, like they came back to life. They did what they were supposed to do, and they got all 6 points rather from the 2 games, and which is normally enough. And then the funny thing was, the Poland Mexico team, in the last game where you had I think you had a situation whereby Mexico and Poland were on the same games played, the same goal scored, the same goal conceded. The only way they could, the tiebreaker was the fair play, and because Mexico had more yellow cards, so Mexico was going out due to that. And eventually Mexico, but the Saudi Arabian goal, at the end of the Saudi Arabia Mexico game, kind of like softened the mathematics of it, like, but eventually, like, Mexico were going out, unfortunately for Javier. But yeah, it was an exciting period, honestly. For a neutral, at least, it was a really exciting period. What's your take, man?
I mean, you said it already, like, but the first game, I feel like it was like a defining moment for this World Cup because the Asian teams could take away something from this game and say, hey, even we can go hit the heavyweights and then come back with a few points. And I feel like a lot of them got inspired from this game. And also, like, shout out to Mexico and Poland. They didn't make it an easy group for Argentina, but because Argentina had a lot of shaky moments as well in all of those matches, and they always looked like they could concede, but in the end, they got the job done.
Yeah. That's very valid, honestly. Like that's the thing. Like, Argentina's cruised through this World Cup so far. I think not even in second gear, but in third gear. Because the point is, one thing I actually have seen with Argentina, from at least from the Copa, I don't know what's happened in between because I haven't seen a lot of Argentina. The one from the Copa, what I've seen is that like the Messi dependency has reduced a lot. this is one of the greatest things I credit Scaloni for. Like he actually has actually reduced the Messi dependency. But now at the World Cup, you see it's almost like Messi has to do everything again, because you see how much wasteful Lautaro is, and how young and raw Alvarez is. Also, the impact of Angel Di Maria also is being reduced because of the injuries and what is not. So it's just a bit quite. I mean, it's going back to the Messi of past, but I mean, so far so good. I think the game against Mexico was a very good performance from Lionel Messi. Honestly, yeah, I think it was a very good individual performance from him. But yeah, I mean, if the bracket seems fair to them, I think they can actually push the way if they can, click into at least second gear and like reduce the burden on Messi as well. I think that might be something that's good for them. Honestly, I think that could be a good thing.
I mean, I did catch the first game, like the Saudi Arabia and Argentina game, but my only regret is I didn't watch the Arabic commentary. I saw all the videos on Twitter later, and then I immediately regretted it. It was so fun to watch.
That would have been something, right? I mean, that imagine watching on national TV in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure like the commentators will pass out due to lack of air, and how much enthusiastic they are about the commentaries, about, and you even watch, you see Arabic commentaries on like players like Messi and Cristiano, and you see how much effort they put into that, Then imagine if it's one of their own.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been, outrageous. Honestly, it would have been outrageous. Yeah. So we move on to Group D. Apparently not the group of that. So we have France, Australia, Tunisia, and Denmark in that order. So the first big thing I will say is that Denmark finished without a win and with 1 point and crashed out of the tournament. I mean, Denmark were one of my favorites to go all the way through at the World Cup, to be honest. I actually even have them top in this group ahead of France because I actually consider them a very, very solid team. But it's been a team. I guess it's a case of whereby there's too much pressure on the team, and the team also put a lot of pressure on themselves as well. Because honestly, like when you look at players like the captain, what's the name of the captain, the guy who plays for Milan, Simon Kjær. You look at Peter Schmeichel. You look at the likes of Christian Eriksen. And you look at the Paulsons and these are all players who are like, at the twilight, these are players that most likely this is the last World Cup for them. So I felt maybe they had that much pressure on them as they had to perform at this World Cup as well, given what they have achieved at the Euros, where they went all the way to the semi-finals as well. So I thought maybe we had we placed a lot of pressure on them, and also like they placed pressures on themselves as well, and they just crumbled under the weight of all this pressure. Honestly, I think that might have been the case for Denmark, but it was a really really disappointing performance from Denmark at the World Cup. I think they have been the most disappointing team for me, at least personally, because I actually expected a lot from them. And then we come to France. Then France played against Australia and Denmark in good fashion. Sorry, against Australia and Denmark in good fashion. And I think in one of the game it was Olivier Giroud with 2 goals, Kylian Mbappe with 1 goal and 1 assist. And then in the other game against Denmark, it was Kylian Mbappe's show, like 2 crucial goals. The opener and the winner eventually. And then, as you talked about, France playing against Tunisia with a very weird team and Camavinga as a left back and stuff like that, and they lost eventually in that game. So it's just also back to the point you make about the Arab teams and the Asian teams, like just springing to life at the World Cup. Like I think the Tunisia scalp of France, although they didn't go through, will remain forever etched into folklore, and the Tunisian will revel on that at least for the years to come. What was your take on the team? Also, like, sorry, let's just add about Australians. The Socceroos actually punched above their weight in this group, honestly. I mean, Australia was the team I was expecting to finish rock bottom, but they came out with 6 points. It was a really, really good, really, really good showing. Actually, I feel like the best story of the tournament has been Australia, because the point is when you check the amount of players they have across, what they have achieved, I think they're the best value for money at the World Cup, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, like we know what happened in the round 16 now, but in my opinion, like they did punch above their weight in the group stage, but it would have been like way more exciting to see Denmark in that spot, against Argentina. So yeah, we do have a big missing there, but it was really fun seeing Tunisia and all them punching above their weight. As for France, this is the thing, right? We all expected like France, Brazil, and all these teams to have a perfect record in the group stage because they had kind of easier groups. But in the end, like none of the teams have a perfect record in this World Cup. It's mostly because of the weird timing of the World Cup, I guess, because and a lot of teams decided to rest their players in the last game. So yeah, no perfect games for any teams.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, no perfect. And actually, I felt also like the teams, as you said, rightly conserve their, especially teams like that qualified like France and Brazil. I think France and Brazil and Portugal, they had
Portugal.
already qualified. Yeah, so I think they just chose to conserve their team because getting 9 points is not important, but having players refreshed and moving, being fresh for the knockouts, I think that takes paramount, especially when you consider the fact that we see players falling ill and what is getting injured and what is not. So I think it's paramount. And we go to the weirdest group of the World Cup, Group E. We have Japan as number one, Spain as number two, Germany as three, and Costa Rica as four. So it's really, really interesting, this group. Like, I started watching Costa Rica against Spain, the 7-0 thing, and I actually deduced that, like, Costa Rica might be the second worst team at the World Cup after the host. And then you go and then you see Costa Rica win against Japan. And this is the same Japan that came from 1-0 down to beat the almighty Germany again, 2-1. So it's actually kind of interesting. And then we go into the last game of the tournament, and there was a 3-minute period where Costa Rica was ahead against Germany, and Japan was ahead against Spain. So like both Germany and Spain were eliminated from the tournament, for this 3 minute period, and it was a really, really fun end to the whole group thing. And we had the controversy of the ball, is it out or is it in? It was just mere millimeters that actually eliminated Germany from the World Cup. The ball from the Japanese attacker, like it was barely on the line. So it was a very, very, very interesting and weird game. But I would just ask you this, like let's just say, like, what's the biggest problem with Germany as the Mannschaft, as they call them? What's your take on their problem? Is it like the attacking, the coaching, the defense, or what do you think is the problem with the Mannschaft?
I feel like, they just care way too much about things outside of their gameplay. That was the main takeaway on Twitter, saying, hey, oh, they were concerned about LGBT and on propaganda and stuff rather than their gameplay. But I feel like this was an expected result for this team because they do have a lot of youngsters coming in, but they don't have a pure number nine to, get the job done and put the ball in the net because one team that they've had in the last World Cup and this World Cup is in the group stage, they've had the highest number of shots of any time, but they just haven't been able to put it in. It's all hitting the post or going astray. So, um, apart from that, yeah, it's just that I feel like every World Cup since 2014, I feel like we expect them to perform at a lesser level, especially against more energetic and hungry teams.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very valid. I mean, you could see it even in the second half in the game against Japan as well. Like honestly, like uh, they were the second best. To be told, they were really, really the second best. But also, considering that as well, as you rightly pointed out, like they had a lot of chances in the first half. Some fell to Gundogan and some fell to some other players as well. So they could, if they had taken those chances, it would have been a whole different ball game. So you're totally right. Like, I think like the lack of a striker might be a big problem for them. But then that also parleys with what's happening with Spain, though. Like Spain also doesn't have we wouldn't say Spain has that, out and out number nine who can, go
Dude,
and get the goal.
Spain has the like goated number nine, Morata.
I mean,
Well,
that's the thing, but you could see, like, for example, Spain is scoring 7 against Costa Rica, without a number nine. But Germany cannot do the same. So it's kind of weird, like, it's a kind of so that guy just brings me to the fact that maybe it's not just about the strikers alone. It's more also about the system, about the players as well. So I think maybe, as actually Ansi Flick has said, actually, after, like, a lot of things need to change. Maybe a lot of this same, because, for example, we know most likely for Ilkay, for Thomas Muller, the likes of Sula, for this guy, Manuel Neuer, and so on and so forth. Most likely this is the last World Cup for them. So it's just going to be now, a total new breed, the likes of Mukoko and, Musiala and so on and so forth. Like, these are guys who are actually, and also shout out to Musiala. Like, he had a really, really good tournament. And actually, I was reading the start, like, he had, I think, 12 dribbles in the game against Costa Rica or something like that. He was a phenomenal player, honestly. Like, Jamal Musiala keeps, amazing me. Like, he keeps he keeps piquing my interest, the more I watch him, honestly. He's a really, really interesting player. Yeah. And also I think if you also see like for Germany, I think they were playing Sula as a fullback for the first couple of games, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, obviously, like any smart tactician will see like, okay, Sula is a fullback. Just put your wingers on him, and like they don't even have to dribble past him. They just have to run faster than him, and that's something that even you and I can do. I mean, Niklas Sula is like one of the most immobile defenders you will ever find there. So him playing as a fullback is not is actually kind of weird. But then it also says a lot about what the German fullbacks have to offer. Like if the coach is actually deciding to play Sula as a fullback in your stead. So I mean, yeah, it's for German football. It's really, really sorry. Like German teams at the World Cup used to be like, just like German machines. When like when you buy a machine from Germany, you know what to expect from it. Consistency. You know, there's always going to be that consistent application. That discipline. That tenacity there. But right now, it's just pure comedy. Like you go and watch Germans, and like it's almost like everyone expects them to like to flop, to have a big mishap or something like this. As you rightly pointed out, for the last two World Cups, like the expectations keeps dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. Well, yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Let's
And
move on to
before moving
awesome.
on, we have Ashish in the chat with a lot of comments. So
Oh,
he actually says that Spain is pretty boring to watch. Do you agree with that, Farouk? Because he says tiki taka is kind of boring without someone to put the ball into the net.
I mean that's the thing. Honestly, like also I watched the Spain game for the Costa Rica match for the first half. After that, I stood up and left because honestly, it wasn't fun for me. That's
Mm.
just it, honestly. I mean, the point is, I can see them. I don't know why it's so, but like I don't know. I feel like there's a different version to this pain. Like for example, I sit down and watch Man City play, and honestly, I really love that. I watch it like with pure joy. I find joy in watching that. But I watch Spain, and honestly, I don't see that as well. To be honest, I don't know, maybe because there's a bit of like, because whether you like it or not, like Pep has actually like revolutionized the tiki taka thing. Also, he's added the pressing and what is not into the game. So I don't know, but Spain still feels, I wouldn't use the word stagnant, but like still feels like, that ball movement just has to keep going in triangles, without any kind of, I mean, just the 1,000 passes to death and something like that. So I don't know, man. I also share what Ashik is saying. It's like I don't feel like I can watch. I mean, the Spain Germany was okay, but I don't think I can, sit down and watch, like Spain pass their way around teams and what is not. Like I don't. That's not for me, man. I also find it so boring, honestly.
It's, I mean, Spain have a lot of Barca players. Do you think it's a symptom of most of the players coming from one team and then they play the similar style? And okay, and were you impressed by the Madridistas like Asensio and Carvajal?
Asensio's been good. Like I think Carvajal also, as ladies claim, after the first game where Cesar Azpilicueta started, I was really surprised. But I think Asensio has been really good. Asensio has been really, really good for Spain, honestly. And I think this is one of the games that actually suits Asensio the best because like you're not playing at a very high tempo, you're not playing that fast, you're not playing, so it's just give, take, one touch, move around, all these kind of things. Whereas on the other hand, when you go to Madrid, like it's Benzema releasing Vinicius, and Vinicius, trying to tee back to Benzema and trying to move in and create space. So it's like a bit more fast paced, in my opinion. So I feel like this ball game actually suits Marco Asensio a lot and a lot, honestly. But I think he's been very, very good. He's been really good, actually. Yeah, so I wouldn't take anything from Marco. He's been really good, honestly.
Okay.
That's all from Ashik, I guess. Thank you, Ashik, for keeping us engaged. So we're just gonna move on to the next group, which is Morocco, Croatia, Belgium, and Canada. Okay. So Morocco and Croatia finished first, Belgium third, and Morocco and Croatia finished first and second respectively. Belgium were third, and unfortunately, Canadians were fourth, losing all three games and ending with 0 points for their first World Cup ever. So I mean, they will come back. They will come back stronger. I think the Canadian team has a lot to them, because when you watch the first game against Belgium, honestly, Thibaut saved the penalty from Alphonso Davies before Belgium eventually scored. So I feel like if that goal had gone in, which was a really, honestly, like, let's not take anything from Thibaut's save, but it was a really, really poor penalty from Alphonso Davies, honestly. Honestly, it was a really bad one. Yeah, so I think Canada will be back and better. But for Belgium, I think this is the end of the line for the golden generation. And like Roberto Martinez actually has also like said that he left the job. I mean, I like Martinez a lot, but then, when you come back and evaluate the situation, you feel like if they had maybe a better tactician, someone to, for example, if they had a better tactician, maybe in 2018 against England, it would have, sorry, they lost out to England or to Croatia? I can't remember actually. I think they
Um,
lost out to England in the semifinals in 2018. I think they lost out to England in the
uh,
semifinals.
yeah, yep, yep.
So I think, for that, like, it would have been, sorry, no, they lost out to France. Yeah. Belgium lost out to France. Croatia defeated England in the semifinals. Yeah. Yeah. That was it. That was it.
Mm,
That was it. Yeah. Belgium lost out to France, and Croatia defeated England in the semifinals. So yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, you might think about these positions, like if they had a different coach, a different tactician, maybe this Belgium team uh, overpowers France in 2018 because they had Eden Hazard at his peak. Kevin De Bruyne has been playing at a very high level for a long time. Romelu Lukaku was very good at the World Cup as well. So you might think about this, and the likes of Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld, they're also very, very high at that point. Yannick Carrasco was playing good. Dries Mertens was still, much more younger and all what is not. So you might feel like maybe, hindsight 2020, like if they had a different tactician there, that would have been a different outcome for them. But unfortunately, this is the end of it all, and it's so sad, honestly, because when you look at the game against Croatia, like, I mean, Lukaku had 3 or 4 chances to finish the game. And I don't know, man, because I have been the one who has been saying like they need Lukaku to come back into this team for them to actually work. But Lukaku came back and literally fluffed this line. But then on the other hand, honestly, like it might sound like making tons of excuses for Lukaku, but the big room actually has been out for a very long time. That's the thing. And you can't just expect a man to come back all of a sudden and just be fully fit and firing. I mean, we've seen it even with the Ballon d'Or winner Karim Benzema as well. He's come back and he's been a shadow of himself for a couple of games as well. So it takes a while to reach that level once again. So it's not easy, honestly, to be honest. It's just so sad, what could have been for this Belgian team, because it was a really, really stacked team, and they should have done much more. But unfortunately, it's the end of the line for, because like when you check the age wise, maybe a best case scenario the Euros are 24. Other than that, like you don't expect these guys to show up at the World Cup next year. Yeah, so I mean, it's just back to the drawing board for the Belgian Federation and what's and what is not. So they have to decide how they go forward with their team from here. But the surprise of the tournament is Morocco, topping the group with 7 points. Actually, I remember, while we're making the preview, I think, I don't know who was, maybe it was Sunaid or someone was saying like, I think either Sunaid or Javier, I can't recall, like we're saying that, like the Moroccans like actually have a very good team on paper, but I actually just been pointing out to them the fact that, Morocco just actually sacked their coach, and they just brought a new coach in, a more indigenous coach. So, they have these players on paper that might not gel well together, and what is not. But boy, have they gelled, man. They didn't lose any game across 3 games, 2 wins, 1 draw, which ends up with 7 points. And they've actually, they've been deserving of their position as the first in this group, honestly. It's been a really, really good performances from them. I'm really, really so happy for the Moroccans, honestly. Like it's a really, really good performance from these people, actually. Like the North Africans, they actually showed up, as we talked about earlier before, like Tunisia won against France, and we have Morocco top in a group that includes both Croatia and Belgium as well. So it was really, really good, honestly. And then we come to the Croatians as well. I don't know if you were aware, but like there was this Canadian coach who was gonna say like they're gonna F Croatia. I don't know
yeah,
if you said that, and the
saw it
Croatian
on
players
Twitter.
actually
Yeah.
were talking. Yeah, the Croatian players actually were talking after the game that that also serves to them as a motivation. I mean, the point is, you're Canada at your first World Cup. You're coming against seasoned veterans. These are World Cup. These are not just even World Cup veterans. These are like tournament veterans. You're coming against people with the know-how. Even if they're not the best team at the tournament, like they're one of the teams with the most experience at the tournament. So you're coming against this team. You're coming at the very first World Cup. I mean, you should tone down the shit talking. So you should not chat shit that much. You should tone it down, and it just served like as ammunition for the Croatians, and they just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. And yeah, Kramaric was doing his thing, and yeah, Lavaya and so on and so forth. So he was and with the watch along with Doris, it was like something. It was a really good. It was a fantastic one, honestly. So yeah, I'm so happy for Croatia and for Doris especially. So yeah, it's good that they also got through the group as well. What's your take on Group F?
I mean, so to your point about the shit talking from Canada, they were
Yeah,
flying high after like a really good performance against Belgium, and then they were really, really unlucky to walk away with a loss there. I feel like like 0 points and losing the group, like it's kind of too harsh on them. They did have a few good moments, but I guess
Exactly.
not enough in the end. With Belgium, like especially from a Madridistas, Courtois had a really good first game. For the second game, man, like he did mess up a bit between. But Hazard, we got a few glimpses of him, nothing so far. And I feel like a lot of the Madridistas, they were hoping, hey, we could see like the final, like ultra version of Hazard, because it's his last World Cup. But we got to see nothing, man. Like, we got to see nada. That was really disappointing to see. But with Croatia, yeah, super happy for Modric, for Doris, and yeah, and those watch-alongs were really fun to watch as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, moving on to Group G, we have Brazil as number one, Switzerland as number two. Then we have Cameroon and Serbia. Yeah, just take turn, Jacob. Like, what's your take on Group G?
Well, Group G had some crazy moments as well because in between like the second match day, almost all of the like we didn't know who was going through whether it was Switzerland, Serbia, or Cameroon because it was very close. Like in at one point, but in the end, Swiss had too much quality and then they equalized and whatnot. Brazil,
Yeah,
man, Brazil have just too much quality. They can steamroll teams with their a dynamic front three. Like they can lose maybe three or four players and still put out like one of the best front lines in the World Cup. It is what it is. But in the last game, they did have a pretty okay performance. Like, do you feel like they deserve to lose?
I feel like it was just one of those games where you just get sucker punched at the end, and there is nothing you can do about that. But as you said, I also felt like it was an okay performance, honestly. But I just felt like for my people from Cameroon, like it was deserving. If they're gonna go out of the World Cup, what's better than defeating Brazil? Because the point is like actually in West Africa, like Brazil is the big deal. Like I mean, even much more than Argentina. Much more than Argentina. So like defeating Brazil, I'm sure has sent the streets of Yaoundé, which is the capital of Cameroon, into chaos. Like it's like it's gonna be like okay, actually Christmas is near, so it's like Christmas came early for them, honestly. So like I really feel good for them. But I mean, it's inconsequential to Brazil, honestly, because I don't think it changed anything because also it was at the end of the game. So it wasn't like, and also it wasn't like they were bad or anything like that. So I feel like it's just a feel good story and it doesn't have any consequence on Brazil. So it's all fine and good, honestly, in my opinion. But for me, I think the disappointment of the group was Serbia. Honestly, I feel like this is a really stacked Serbian team. With the Sergei Milinkovic Savic. I know everyone is actually Milinkovic Savic on the Serbian team. I don't know how that is. Everyone has the name Milinkovic Savic, so that's with the Mitrovic and the Dusan Vlahovic, even with our former player as well. What's it called? Luka Jovic, with when you have the captain as well, Dusan Tadic and all that. So I mean, it was a really, really good team that had a very solid core. So I was actually expecting a bit more. But actually, even when you watch the games, like they're always there, but they always can't seem to hit the next level. Even in the game against Brazil as well, they were in the game. As you said, also like in the game against Switzerland, they were in the game. Eventually, the quality of the Swedes, overcame it, and also the draw with Cameroon was actually fatal for them eventually because it was a high scoring 3-3 draw. Like it was a really, really entertaining game. Although I didn't watch the game, but like watching the highlights of the extensive highlights of the game was a really, really fun thing. I want to say I had a lot of high hopes for Serbia as well. I feel like they could actually upset because obviously Switzerland are the more established team here. So like we all expect Brazil to go through. The question was just who's going to be second. I wasn't expecting Cameroon to be able to compete with these teams honestly, but I was thinking maybe Serbia could give Switzerland a run for their money. But unfortunately, like Switzerland, eventually, as you said, the stardust just shone through, and that's the thing, like when you have a lot of players with this experience at top level football, which Switzerland has in abundance, when you look at the Jan Sommer, like Jan Sommer has been around forever and ever, in German football, you go through to Ricardo Rodriguez, you go to, Emmanuel Akanji, you go to Shaqiri, you check even, players like, Zidane, Zidane Shaqiri, Granit Xhaka, you check these players, even the likes of Breeden Bolo, Denis Zakaria, like these are players that are seasoned, players, Harry Seferovic and so on and so forth. So like, these are really, really, very, very well talented players, honestly, like players that have a lot of experience. So it's actually, yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah, you would say it's not totally unexpected for them to, to eventually uh, power through this group, honestly, because as I said, like these are seasoned performance. They've done it for a lot of years. So it's all expected. Yeah, well, Brazil will always be Brazil. And actually one thing I actually find funny is this, we have Lucas Paqueta for Brazil. He plays for Newcastle.
Hmm.
And we have Alexis McAllister for Argentina. He plays for Brighton. And I'm just thinking in my mind, how is it possible that teams that, like are literally like the top, I don't know, they're outside of the top six, have two players starting for the two favorites of the World Cup?
Hmm.
I mean, Alexis McAllister plays for Brighton, man. And Paqueta plays for West Ham. And these are two shooting starters, first names on the sheet. I mean, that just goes to tell you the power of financial might that the Premier League has, honestly. Like it's weird. I mean, wow, that's something in my opinion, honestly.
Also,
I
like
don't know.
with I mean, with Paqueta, like we know he's like a really talented player. Like he has the vision, he has the touch to make it. But I feel like he has inconsistencies, and which is why he hasn't found that spot in a really good team. Um but these players, man, like even Richarlison, like he always turns up for Brazil. Like he always manages to nick that goal. I feel like he's like their most informed striker for the past 1 or 2 years, maybe.
I mean, definitely for sure. I mean, if it comes to Brazil, yeah, that's it. Actually that's why like when also like you discuss about the World Cup teams and the selection that the managers make. The managers are going to make the selection based on who performs for them. You understand? Because the point is, right now, actually, Gabriel Jesus is injured now, but Gabriel Jesus was a better player than Richarlison going into this tournament. Even Bobby Firmino was in better form than Richarlison going into the tournament. But as you said, like Richarlison has been performing for Brazil for the last 18 months. He hasn't let them down. So like, there is no point in dropping someone who is already proven to your system. So that's actually a very valid point, Jacob. That's really one. So let's go to the last group of the World Cup. It's Group H. We have Portugal at number 1, Korea at number 2, and then we have Uruguay and Ghana as 3 and 4. This was a very interesting group because everyone won at least one game.
Yeah.
Everyone won at least one. And Portugal had 6 points, Korea had 4, Uruguay had 4, and Ghana had 3 points. Okay,
So
yeah. So okay, just go on.
no, I was just looking at the group, and so how did they end up choosing the position of Uruguay and Korea Republic? Did it come down to the head-to-head?
Yeah, I think it came out to the no. They don't use head to head in the World Cup. They use a fair play.
Ah, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they use a fair play, right? Yeah, I think they use a fair play. It was actually quite interesting, honestly. But anyways, I mean, the I think actually because even if they use a head to head, it was 0-0 the first game, right? So it has to
True.
come down to the fair.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to come down to the fair play. And also, if you could remember, like the Uruguayans in the last game got a lot of yellow cards.
It's a crazy game.
That game alone would have just cancelled out all of the fair play thing. Honestly, like they got a lot of yellow cards, so it was really really. I mean, the Portuguese. What do you make of the Portuguese? They top the group with 6 points, 2 wins, one loss. What do you make of the Portuguese team?
If you look at if you ask any Portuguese fan, they will say, "Hey, we got to sack Santos, man. He's anti-football, whatever, whatever." And some of their football is like really frustrating to watch. They have all these excellent players up top, but they just don't have the right system to express themselves. And especially like Cristiano, like right now, Santos doesn't know how to use Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not sure if any manager knows how to use Cristiano Ronaldo in his current form, but he just doesn't get any service, man, any sort of service or any sort of goal scoring position. So it comes down to Bruno or Rafael or someone of that ilk, maybe even Joao Felix. He had a pretty decent tournament so far. So those guys need to really unlock the defense for something to happen with Portugal. But their defense has stood strong for them. That's why they did top the group in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I think, in my opinion, honestly, like it might be a controversial thing, but I think Cristiano is holding Portugal back. Cristiano and Fernando Santos are the two teams holding Portugal back because, I mean, man, hell, whoever comes to me and tells me Bruno Fernandes isn't a baller, I mean, that person is crazy. Because, people come and be like, oh, Bruno Fernandes is all, barking without biting. I'm sorry, no. The man has the technical ability and the grit to match honestly, like Bruno is a really fantastic footballer. I mean, for me personally, like I've had fun watching him, and the most fun I've had watching him is after Cristiano has been withdrawn from the team. Once Cristiano is substituted, then the team runs through Bruno, and because the team runs through Bruno, you can see how good Bruno Fernandes is. I mean, honestly, that man is a baller. And you also mentioned rightly João Felix as well. Like Felix has really performed really, really well at the World Cup. Because at first when I saw the first lineup for the games, I saw it was Felix ahead of Leao, and I was like, how can Felix start ahead of Leao? Like that shouldn't happen. But upon watching the game, like after the game started, I actually could see why João Felix was starting. And honestly, it was a really, really good game from João Felix as well. A couple of games rather. And Rafael Leao also put in the good shift. But I feel like Portugal should achieve quite good at this World Cup. But as you said rightly, like what happens with Cristiano and Santos? How do they figure that out? How does he match? How does he fit into the system? How does he fit into the whole grand setup? I actually have no idea. But one thing I can say for sure is like once Cristiano retires, and this is Fernando Santos' last tournament as well, so it's gonna be a really, really good Portuguese team again. Honestly, it's gonna be a really good Portuguese team with a lot of flair. Really, this is a really, really good team. Honestly. I have high hopes at least at the next, well, not this tournament, but at the next tournament, I think the Portuguese team can be really, really good, honestly.
Yeah, and
And
then they do have
moving
a
on.
couple of absences as well, like Jota was injured. Like he is a really important miss for them.
Yeah, exactly. Jota was a really important miss for them as well, because I feel like one of the because I think actually they played two up top, if I'm not mistaken, with Jota and Ronaldo, dovetailing off of each other. So I think the lack of Jota there also is something they missed a lot. But as I said, like imagine, when eventually Cristiano leaves, you have to also consider the fact that even we have the likes of Andrea Silva there as well, so you can even still play two up top with Andrea Silva and Diego Jota. So even if push comes to shove, you just can play your fluid three, with Liao, João Felix, and Diego Jota. So that could be also. I mean, it's the possibilities, are very, very tantalizing actually for Portuguese going forward. So yeah, I mean, let's just see what happens. As I said, not for this tournament, but I'm more optimistic about the next tournaments. Yeah, I think hopefully that way things will be better. But yeah, let's come to the Koreans. I don't know. I feel like the Koreans are kind of like I don't know, a level below the Japanese, but they're still good, but like they're not as good as the Japanese. But like they just they have a very good defense, in my opinion. I think they built whatever they built on their defense. We have Kim Ja from Napoli as well. Like he's been really, really good for Napoli this season, and also he's actually translated that from to the World Cup. I think that's been really, really good for them. Also, they have a lot of this uh, German Bundesliga players as well. I think the Li Hang from the RB, maybe I'm pronouncing his name wrongly or not. So, I mean, it's been a really, really solid. I wouldn't say outstanding performance from Korea, but I mean, solid performances from them, in my opinion. I don't know. Were you able to watch some Korean games? What do you think about them?
No, I just got to watch the highlights. So for me, initial impressions just from watching the highlights, like they don't do that well in their like early build-up play, but once they get to the final third, like some shit just happens and falls into place for them. Like I'm not sure if it's the dynamic moment or whatever, but yeah, they do end up finishing the job, even though it's not always pretty to watch. Uh,
Yeah, I
uh,
totally agree.
but with Uruguay, man, like I don't know where to start with Uruguay. So the first problem with Uruguay that the whole tournament they just didn't utilize Fede Valverde, but like where he's deadly. So they had him like really back in the midfield, working on defense alone. They just didn't play through him, and I feel like that hurt the team a lot. What do you think, Gaurav?
Definitely, I think that as well because I feel like honestly, like when you have a midfield of the likes of Rodrigo Bentancur and Fede Valverde, I was expecting like two-way performances. But if we see the reason why both Bentancur and Fede actually perform well at their club levels is because like they have less okay, they still have the defensive responsibilities, but like it's not their sole job to defend. So like for the Uruguayans, like they actually let Fede be like the primary DM, so it was a kind of weird formation for him because, like, for us, it's either Cruz or I mean, it's normally Kamavinga, or if not, it's Cruz. If not, even, uh, what's it called? Sorry, I meant Chouameni,
So
not
many.
Kamavinga. It's normally Chouameni or it's Cruz or even sometimes, even Kamavinga, but it's not going to be Fede, like, because that's not what he does. Like, that takes a lot away from what he can give to the team, actually. So I feel like it's a real detriment. And also, as we saw at the World Cup, it's really, really reduces effect on the team as well. So, I mean, that's just it, like also, because Oscar Tabares left before the World Cup. So it's actually a bit. Oscar Tabarez left before the World Cup. The new guy came. They put a run together and came to the World Cup. So it's the end of the circle for them as well. Because when you see the likes of the Martin Castrosis, Diego Godins, Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani's, so it's also the end of a circle for them as also, they just have to go in now with new younger players, as we talk about Fede Valverde, Rodrigo Bentancur, like the likes of
Nunez.
Darwin Nunez, the Ronald Araujo and so on and so forth. So like, the future looks bright because they always have that spine, the spine is always there. So I think the future is going to be good for them. But for now, honestly, like, yeah, they totally have misused the players, in my opinion. And also the aging factor of, both Suarez and Cavani also didn't help the situation at all, honestly. Because, if you watch a lot of the games, like Nunez was mostly playing through the wing or something like that, he was like out wide. So I feel like for the next tournaments, like Nunez should come through the middle. And as I also like, during the preview, I've been, for me, actually, it's been a lot of personal disappointments, be it Serbia, be it, Belgium, and so on and so forth. Like also I had a lot of high hopes for both Fede Valverde and Darwin Nunez. Actually, I thought they were going to be the breakout players of the tournament, but I mean, the breakout player of the tournament so far has been Cody Gakpo. To be honest, like I don't think there's any other player who comes close to matching his feats as a breakout player. So yeah, that's that. But I mean, also the Ghanaians as well also surprised me, with the victory against Korea Republic. It was a really surreal moment for them as well because I wasn't expecting that, because like they went 2-0 up and then it was 3-2, and it was 2-2, sorry, and then they even went up to 3-2 again as well. And also when you check the game against the Portuguese as well, they almost had the chance of also equalizing at the last minute through Inaki Williams, when uh, Diogo Costa actually forgot that Williams was behind him, and if not because of the slip of Williams, it would have, been what a comical goal at the highest level of football indeed. So yeah, the Ghanaians also look like a team that actually could do something because as also similarly for them, it's the end of a cycle for the Ayu brothers as well, I think, because one of them is really old and the other one is like 31 or 32. So yeah, it's almost the end of the circle for them as also like now you have to consider, like Williams I think is 27, 28. You have to see like the likes of Thomas Party. I think Party is also 28, 29, and the Kudus and those guys. So it's also again like a very, very bright team for the Ghanaians as well if they can keep the core together and the coach together as also. I mean, it's a good run out for the kids. Just test yourself at the highest level and see what's there and what's to come for the future as well.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
I
I guess so.
guess
That will be
yeah,
stage.
that's
So before we move on, Jacob, who's been your player of the group stage so far? The group stages. Who's been the player of the group stages for you?
for me. So obviously, like if I had to choose a Madridist, it would be Vinny. He has like really couple of really good performances. Some no other Madridist has really stood out for me apart from Vinny. If I had to choose for a general player, probably someone from England, I guess. Yeah, Rashford is like one of my shoutouts for like a really solid showing for a forward.
Definitely, I totally agree. Marcus Rashford is a good shout out. Definitely, Marcus Rashford is a good shout out. I mean, I would say Kylian Mbappe has been really good as well, honestly.
Hmm.
Kylian Mbappe has been really good, so I would also like shout Kylian Mbappe out. And also, like, I think the revelation of the tournament is Cody Gakpo, in my opinion. I will see that, and also I will give an honorable mention to Jamal Musiala as well. Like, it was a losing effort, but it was a good effort from him as well. And I think Enzo Perez from Argentina has been good. I think Enzo
Yeah.
Perez has been good also in the Argentine national team. I think they actually put in a bit of effort. I think they've been good actually. So I think, and is it Enzo Perez or Enzo Fernandez? I'm not sure. I think it's Enzo Fernandez, right? I'm not sure if I got the name right.
Hmm.
I think it's Enzo Fernandez. I'm not sure. That. Let's just quickly check this. I think it's Enzo
Sure.
Fernandez.
Like for me, like one more thing, like it's not just about break. One thing that we have in this World Cup is like really quick VAR reviews, right? Are you like generally happy with the level of decision making that's going on in this World Cup? There are some really, really tight calls, man.
Yeah, some really tight calls, honestly, to be honest. Like, so again, the consistency is not there. For example, we saw the penalty with Cristiano in the first game against Ghana. I mean, if that's a penalty, then what's it called? I think, was it in the Belgium Canada game or Belgium Croatia game? There was a penalty similarly that wasn't given. So I
Yeah.
mean, so also that's the thing. Like, this refereeing and officiating now comes to a personal level. It's just like someone who is grading a sheet. I will grade the sheet, and someone will get, for example, a 90. I will give you the same sheet to grade, and someone will get like maybe 85. So because like there's something known as partial marking and just instinctive behaviors. So that's the thing about the referees as well. Not unless everything comes down to the rule of the T. For example, the ball is out or is not out. It's easy because we have technology there. We can see that this technology tells us that the ball is totally in or totally out. The offside, whether you like the rule of the offside or not, the point is this: there's a technology. It says that if this guy is even 0.1 millimeters, the strand over here, offside or not. If he's offside by the rule of the law, he is offside. But when it comes to awarding of penalties, it just depends totally on the referee.
Yeah,
So that's why it's always gonna.
and like VAR doesn't just seem to care when referees do make a decision saying, hey, they always seem to back the referee when giving penalties. And it's always up to the referee's discretion if even if it's a clear penalty or not, like he always gets to see the screen result instead of directly the VAR referees going and saying to him, hey, this is an actual penalty, you should give it. Instead of doing that, they just give him the option to show the video screen and then he ends up like taking the safe route, probably.
I think that's better, actually, Jacob, because the point is, if the VAR is telling the ref it's a PK, and because the point is, whatever's happening, it should happen by the ref on the pitch. The ref on the pitch should always make the final decision, in my opinion. So the point is, if VAR is, as the name goes, it's an assistant referee. Like, you can assist him and say, okay, hey man, like, we think there's a penalty here. Maybe you might want to check it out. Because if I'm not mistaken, this is how VAR works. The referee tells VAR what he sees. If VAR sees something different from what the ref has seen, they tell him, okay, we have seen something different. You might want to check it out. But if VAR sees exactly what the ref has seen, then they don't even interfere in that.
Right, fair enough.
So I think that's I think that's cool. But that's, I just say, like, the element of giving penalties will always, rest in the hands of the referees on the pitch. And honestly, it's always going to be, I give today, I don't give tomorrow, just depending on what, I consider is this or that, because it's just, how can I say it? Like, it's a human element, so, and the human element is always going to have an element of error in it. So yeah, man, it's just a whole up and down, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so. That will be all for the group stage. I think the highest goal scorers right now have 3 goals: Cody Gakpo, Marcus Rashford, Kylian Mbappe, Ener Valencia. Who else? Did I miss anyone? I don't know.
I think Alvaro Morata
I think that
has
should be
3
all.
as well.
Oh, Morata has 3 as well. Wow,
Yeah.
interesting. Who would have thought? Okay, and that's so. Moving on to the round of 16. So actually, we had a couple of matchups yesterday. So we had firstly, I think the first game of the day was the US against the Netherlands. It ended in 3-1. Actually, I felt the game was just a game of men against boys. Like, the USA was never, ever, ever threatening the Netherlands in any sense of it. And honestly, I feel like, also Greg Berhalter actually played like the players, like set up the players in a way that, seemed like they were scared or something like that, or like paid too much respect to the Dutch or something. I don't know. And also, the game could have changed if Pulisic had buried his chance in the 3rd minute as well. So there is that as well. There is that, like, Pulisic actually missed a chance in the 3rd minute. So that was also something. But after that, I feel like, as you just rightly pointed out earlier during the show, like, the fullbacks played a lot, played a very good instrumental role in the victory. Because as we can even see from this, from the goal, like you saw, Daley Blind scored 1 goal, Denzel Dolphin scored 1 goal. They both scored an assist, so it's obvious that the game was run by the fullbacks, honestly. But yeah, as I said, like, it was really a game of boys against men. But I feel like the US national team should also, the US men national team should, take some pride the fact that, when you consider like how young their players are, like when you check, like Musa and the, Tyler Adams, McKennie, Pulisic, team where, like Dest, Turner in goal as well. All these guys are like 25 and below, so they're gonna just develop into the next game, which they actually host in 2026. So if they can keep the core of the team together, I think it's better to in my opinion, find a more progressive coach rather than Greg Berhalter. maybe Jesse Marsh of Leeds could be a person, because I think Marsh is going to lose his job at Leeds, in my opinion. But
Mm.
that's something else. So I think it might be someone to lead the US national team as well. So if they can keep the core of the players together, I think there's something there. I think there could be something there. But yeah, I mean, yesterday they were outclassed and outplayed throughout the game. But yeah, it's normal. I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's the Dutch. Like, these are European giants, so uh, it's normal. Were you able to catch the game yesterday? The Dutch against the USA?
No, I was just able to get the highlights. I was also on Twitter most of the game, and there was a lot of banter with the US crashing out. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, man. I mean, I saw, like, the basketball legend, Charles Barkley, actually before the game make some very weird comments. And I mean, he's American, so he's just saying things that he doesn't know. But I mean, any sane person wouldn't make such a comment that he made about, whooping the Netherlands and stuff like that. So I mean, obviously, like, any sane person wouldn't bet against. Obviously, like, football is a game of uncertainty. You never can tell. But I mean, not whooping is a very, very huge word to use, but yeah, man, it is what it is. Yeah. So moving on, we had Argentina against Australia. Were you able to watch that?
Oh, heck yeah. I got drunk with my friends, watched it. I was the only, anti-Argentine fan over there. So it was kind of a hard game to watch for me.
Yeah, man. Actually, the Argentina game, I was actually on my way back home, so I just started watching on my phone, and then eventually I watched on my computer. But it was really, really, really wow. I mean, it was Messi. I think that's the best individual performance at this World Cup, in my opinion. Like, Messi was just doing Messi things, honestly. I mean, with a bit of better finishing yesterday, that could have been a massacre, honestly. It could have been a massacre. Like, I
He
mean, the point is,
he laid it on the plate so many times for his team. Like they just couldn't put in.
exactly, exactly, especially for Lautaro, honestly, especially for Lautaro, because, you could see, when down the stretch after Australia actually got that free goal, you could see that I think they had like 3, 4, 5 chances where Messi laid it at least 3 times to Lautaro, and Lautaro flopped his lines. Okay, so, and then you can imagine, like, they had their fullback made this Messi-like run into the Argentine box before, Licha Martinez actually hit the ball out for a corner, and then you also can imagine, I think the last one, the last chance from the Australian attacker. Imagine if that had gone in. So that just gives you the moments of, Higuain at the previous World Cups, and, the Copas, what happened. So, I mean, these guys keep letting Messi down. Like, Messi plays his heart out, and eventually, he just has to hang on for a victory. I mean, it's so, so sad, and it's so unfair. Like, literally, one of the best players to ever grace the game is playing at the peak of his powers for the very last time at the World Cup. At least you guys should step up, honestly. You guys have to step up and, put in the shift as well. But yeah, it is what it is, honestly. But as I said earlier, like, this Argentine team is still like 10 plus one. It's Messi plus 10 players. And they really need to step into second year, and some players need to start stepping up, honestly. Otherwise, it might not be enough. Because I'm just thinking, imagine if that was against France, that, like, the likes of Kylian Mbappe, the Olivier Giroud, and the Antoine Griezmann's bury those chances 100%. So Argentina needs to step up, honestly. The rest of the players rather need to step up. Yeah, so moving on, today we have France against Poland, and then England against Senegal. France against Poland, tell me, what are you thinking, man? An upset come in the cards?
Well, I feel like these big teams they're gonna get more serious in the like since they've come into the knockouts. So I don't feel like there's gonna be an upset. However, like France's defense hasn't been rock solid like at all, and their midfield has been giving away a lot of like easy balls. So I feel like an upset could be on the cards, but feel like they're gonna get their shit straight for at least this game.
Yeah, I think the Polish doesn't have enough ammunition in their arsenal to actually, create an upset in this team, honestly. Because, like, when you watch the Polish, it's a very, very lethargic performance. Honestly, it doesn't give any inspiration actually when you watch the Polish. So yeah, I actually think this is a game that the French could win, and they should have. They might have a bit of difficulty, but not too much difficulty. So I think that should be fine. Well, how do the French fare eventually towards the tournament? I'm not really sure, honestly. But Yeah. Anyways, let's just let's leave that for later. So we have England versus Senegal.
Mhm.
England Senegal. It's a game that I actually want Senegal to win, but I think England's gonna win. Honestly, I think the power is gonna the Stardust eventually is gonna outshine whatever the Senegalese have to give. So yeah, what's your take on that, man?
Yeah, another straightforward game, at least for me. Um, England, I feel like there are very few ways to hurt this particular England version of the England team. There's too much quality throughout the pitch for the Senegalese to do anything now.
Definitely, and I think actually the midfield might be one point where you might look to attack England from, because as we can see in the match against the USA, I think that was very well was like to to try to nullify the effect of Jude Bellingham from the midfield, because when you nullify what Bellingham and Rice do in the midfield, actually you take out a lot from England. So I think maybe if Senegal can try to match that, but it's going to be very difficult for Senegal to match that, honestly. But let's see, because I think with the seasoned veterans Gana Gueye, if Shekwati can be back, and also I think that could be, and also Mendy as well. So that could be a lot. That could be something, because these are players who have the highest experience and they're used to playing against the likes of the Bellinghams and Rices in England. So I think it might be a kind of a good matchup there. But I don't know. As I said, let's see. It seems like it has England written all over it. But I'd love at least Senegal to put up a fight and make it a very good contest for us to watch eventually.
I mean, there's Ashish in the comments saying he believes in Senegal, and let's see, man. Let's see, Ashish. There might be an
Yeah.
upset on the cards.
I mean, I also want to share your belief, man. But I think England might just be too much. But go Senegal, the Teranga Lions. Let's see what they do, man. So moving on Monday we have Japan against Croatia and Brazil against South Korea. So starting with Japan against Croatia, I think this is the most evenly balanced game. I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? It should be the most evenly balanced game at the World Cup so far. That remains
So,
at the World Cup.
so far in the knockouts, yeah, for sure. They're
Yeah.
both really energetic teams. Do you think that Croatia have enough legs in them to keep up with Japan?
So that's the thing. Actually, I was gonna say, because to be honest, I feel like Croatia has a lot of uh, either too old players or too young players. I don't know if that's the right word to use. But I'm looking, because the point is, Croatia has never been a team that's gonna, go, toe to toe and what is on roll. Like, I mean, Croatia is a team that's gonna, eventually create their moments throughout as the game passes on. But as we've seen with Japan, Japan is a team that's gonna, keep running for the whole 90 minutes as well. So I mean, that's something, Croatia might try to use the experience and see, okay, like, we're gonna let these guys run, but then we're gonna, find the exact moments to, hurt them. It's gonna be like a game of patience from Croatia most likely, and then they're gonna like steadily grow into the game and eventually find the moments to hurt uh, Japan. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, Croatia and Japan are two teams that I actually have a soft spot for. So whoever wins this game, actually, for me, it's all good. But for Doris' sake, I mean, I would select Croatia to go through in this time, and also for Luka Modric as well.
Do you think like there's going to be a repeat of like the previous World Cup where Croatia are going to get n number of matches where they play 120 minutes?
Oh, oh, I mean, for Luka Modric's sake, I hope they don't play. Grandpa, working on the pitch. But I actually think that might still happen, honestly. As I said, because I think like Croatia are a team of moments, so I think they will gradually grow into the game, and that growing into the game might lead to the 90th and eventually the 120th minute as well. So I wouldn't really be surprised, honestly. But I think that would be a good thing for Croatia, considering that Japan would get tired. You cannot run for 120 minutes. That's the thing. You cannot run for 120 minutes. So I think that might be something that plays
No,
into
but
Japan.
from this matchup, who do you feel is going to be more of a challenge for Brazil, Croatia or Japan? Croatia.
I think Croatia, given the experience and the know-how, and the players are on the team, yeah, I think that will be. But then I think Japan will be like an unknown quantity, for Brazil. But then because Brazil are gonna play Korea, so they're gonna expect the same thing, because like they're both uh Asian opponents, so like they will be expecting the same kind of performances from Japan as well. Like, I mean, if they do get through Korea, that is. But I think Croatia might offer a more stern test. But I think, in my opinion, for this Brazilian team, like, both Croatia and Japan and South Korea wrapped into one single team, stand no chance against Brazil, in my opinion. So I think I think Brazil Korea. I think it should be a walkover for Brazil. Honestly, that's what I think at least. But then it's the World Cup. We never can tell. But I think it should be a walkover for Brazil eventually, in my opinion. What do you think, Brazil, South Korea?
The thing with Brazil is I feel like their forwards haven't really hit the gear running, especially like only Richarlison has been able to score. They have been reliant on Casemiro stepping in to like score the winner in one of those games. So if those frontline players don't hit their form or they have a bad night, I feel like Korea does have a shout out, and the Brazil team has the odd error in them to actually give Korea a chance.
Yeah, that's also true. That's very valid. But then we heard like Neymar should return after the group stages, so I think Neymar should be playing some part in this in this game, and that will only just make Brazil better. So I'm just a bit optimistic. But as I said, like I think even if Brazil plays at 60 to 70%, I think they should still find a way to overpower Korea. But I think the point is eventually we all want to watch a good game. So I mean, if Korea can make a game out of it, fine. I mean, we just want to watch a good game eventually. So that's the thing. But I think all in all, I believe that Brazil should be able to outpower the Koreans eventually.
For sure.
So we go to the final round of 16 matches. We have Morocco against Spain and Portugal against Switzerland. So Morocco against Spain, it's like a derby or something like, because I don't know if like Morocco and Spain are like very close. So it's like a mini derby on its own, if you can even call it that. But I mean, at this point, I think the people from North Africa, the Moroccans, if that's how they call them, or the people from Morocco, anyways. I think they're gonna be just here for the party. What do you think, man? In the game against Spain, because I think realistically, I don't know. Honestly, I actually am very stuck. How to define the Spanish national team as well, because I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to Morocco, because honestly, like they pass 1,000 passes around and eventually they have to score the perfect goal, otherwise they don't score. And like this is a Moroccan team that's shown that like they have the grit, and they have also the technical ability as well, from the likes of Hakim Ziyech. They have Yassine Bono in goal, Ashraf
Ashraf.
Hakimi. You have this Ogard from West Ham, the center back. We have Amrabat, who is also like a seasoned, European player who has played here and there. You go to the forward, you have the likes of Yusuf and Yesri and what is not. So it's it's a team that's also stacked all around. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually were to nick something off of Spain, because I say like Spain is someone that actually I don't know what to expect from them. But yeah, man, what's your take against Morocco Spain game?
I feel like how Morocco performs is up to Morocco because they can either do one thing, like they can keep playing the same way they did in the group stage and go all out attack when they really need it and put up a really good fight, or they can do what smaller teams do in these types of knockout games, wait for the penalty shot, shootout, or whatever. So if they end up doing that, I feel like Spain are going to walk all over them. If Morocco do step it up and really go for Spain, I feel like they can nick a result easily with the Spain defense.
Mm, that's something actually, because that's the thing. Like Spain actually don't consider themselves as defenders. They just defend. They just more of ball playing players. So they actually don't defend that much. I think that's a very
Bro,
good shot on it.
bro, they play Sergio Busquets in defense. That's insane to me. The like, I still don't understand why they wouldn't call Nacho, man. Like, still don't understand.
I mean, that's the Lucho thing, man. Actually, I was speaking with the Spanish guys. We were watching the game, and he was saying like, as we were actually asking like, why is Ramos not coming? The guy is a fan of Bilbao. Actually, he's an Atletico Bilbao fan, and he was like, in the Spanish national team, we have just one ego, and that is Lucho. We don't need. There is no room for anybody else. If you have an ego, you cannot come to there. So like, he was like kind of saying like, this Combosta characters cannot play for Spain. Like it just has to be Lucho. Lucho has to be the one who has the final say. No one's gonna challenge him or anything. So like people like Sergio Ramos are gonna come and be combo style people. And actually, I honestly have no case with not calling Sergio Ramos, but Nacho is someone I actually feel very very strongly about not calling, to be honest. But then yeah, it is what it is, honestly. So, anyways, moving on, we have the last game of the round of 16: Portugal against Switzerland. I think this game has upset written all over it, to be honest. I really feel like this game has upset written all over it, because these are the kind of games that that you would expect Portugal to win, but behind your mind you're feeling like, huh, this is a Switzerland team, like they're a very weird team to play, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't. I just feel like this is a game that has upset written all over it, honestly. Especially with how lethargic Cristiano Ronaldo has been since the start of the tournament. I don't know how it's gonna eventually play out, but I think this is a game that has upset written all over it. What do you think, man?
Uh, I'm even going to go as far as to say like Portugal are not going to make it past Switzerland now. Because in the like Euros which Portugal actually won, Switzerland did put up a really good fight. They nicked the first goal, and then Portugal had to come back. I feel like something similar is going to happen, but in this time, like Portugal does not have like the know-how or firepower, especially with Ronaldo on the team, to go out and actually nick that goal. They're going to be having a frustrating performance, and it's going to be a sad, sad goodbye for Cristiano.
It's very unfortunate, but then every good team has. Actually, one thing actually I did not know was that yesterday was the first goal Messi scored in the knockout stages of the World Cup, and Cristiano has never scored in the knockout stages of the World Cup as well.
Messi won, Ronaldo nil.
I mean, that's quite crazy, man. I mean, with all the records this guy, I mean, that just only shows, that quantifies how difficult, playing at the World Cup is, honestly, because people maybe play at the World Cup maybe once in their career and something like that, but these guys have played at 5 World Cups and like they have no knockout goals. Like and then you go on the other hand, you see Thomas Muller has 10 World Cup goals, and it's so it's so outrageous. Like, I mean, these guys are literally have been at the top of everything for how many years, and like they literally don't have a World Cup goal. That just only uh resolidifies the idea that the World Cup is just the pinnacle of of world football, honestly.
And usually, like Portugal do find it hard to make it out of the group, but that's not the case with Argentina. Like that stat came as a surprise to me, especially for Messi, because he has played in a lot of these knockout games, and this first goal is like a really big surprise. Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true. That's very true. Yeah. So, which matchup are you looking forward to the most for this round of 16 matches?
Mhm. Well, the Croatia-Japan game is probably the most competitive, but being a Madridista, like I want to see Brazil like really steamroll Korea and then stake their stamp on this World Cup.
Valid point. Valid point. I'm most interested to see the game tonight, man. It's England against Senegal. I hope the boys get something done for me, but let's see how it goes, man. Let's see how it goes. I honestly, like, it would be so fun if Senegal wins and like England crashes out. Like, I mean, it's not coming home and at the hands of Senegal. I mean, that would be pure ecstasy, man. That would be on a different level, honestly. It would be a personal victory for me. But yeah, it's let's see, man. It's a long call, but let's see. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully, the people can get something done.
Yep.
I think with that we've come to the end of the show for today. Any last words, Jacob?
No, man, like let's just hope, like since you had a really disappointing, group stage predictions and expectations, let's hope you get what you paid for the knockouts.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, honestly, like I'm not actually expecting Senegal to defeat England. Like, but anything is a bonus at this point. So that's the thing. So even if they lose, like, I really, but anything is a bonus at this point. But I really hope they can do that. Anyways, man, like let's shout out, RM Committee. They're our partners on Instagram. So just follow them on Instagram. Their links to the links to the pages are below. And also like on our road to 1,000 subscribers, would you please just see you see the video, just like, subscribe, and just help us to keep doing what we're doing. With that, we come to the end of the show today. And Jacob has nothing to add, I guess. So with that, I say, Hala Madrid.
Hala Madrid.